kitchen witchcraft, green witchcraft, plant magic. That is my wheelhouse. And while we're talking about this subject, I want to invite you to a 4-week private group immersive I am hosting in my private community starting January 6th, 2026, where we are going to dive deep into kitchen witchcraft. It's called Hearth Keeper. And in this private container, you will work directly with me to develop skills, to develop a practice that is uniquely yours and sustainable for everyday practice. So head over to the show notes and click the link or go to leandrawitchwood.com and join me today. New year, new witch. Today in the Magick Kitchen, we are talking about how to start a kitchen witchery practice and some green magic. I'm Leandra Witchwood.
And I'm Elyse Wells.
And welcome to the Magick Kitchen Podcast, where we talk about magic, kitchen witchcraft, herbs,
and everything in between.
The Magick Kitchen Podcast is funded and supported by the witchwoodteahouse.com, offering a variety of hand-blended loose leaf teas as well as loose herbs for all of your ritual, spell work, wellness, and everyday enjoyment needs. If you would like to support this podcast while sipping a great cup of tea, head over to the witchwoodteahouse.com and find the magic that's in store for you. So welcome to 2026, everybody. And I think a lot of us are looking to incorporate practices into our craft that are manageable, for one, practical, and easy to implement in our everyday lives. And what better way to do that than kitchen witchery? What do you think?
Kitchen witchery is where a lot of witches, I think, are called, especially green witches. And to us, we were talking about this before we started recording, they're really inseparable paths because when we work in the kitchen, we're working with green magic. We're working with food, nourishing, and it's a very grounding, earth-based place in our home. It's the hearth of our home. So, you know, if you identify as a house witch, a kitchen witch, a green witch, this episode is for you.
Witch.
Yeah, cottage witch is a fun one. This episode is for you to really get some insight onto how to start your path or how to reinvigorate it. If you've maybe been at this path a while and it feels a little stale, maybe today you'll get some ideas for livening things up.
Because our path never goes stale, right?
Yeah. I think it's funny because in the beginning of my magical journey, and this has been a common thread in people I speak with as well, you know, we think, okay, I'll get this stuff down. I'll learn all the things. I'll build my routines. And then I'll know what to do. I'll just do this every time. And it's just not like that in magic. It's always dynamic. When we are on this path, it is going to offer us challenge, which is going to offer us growth, and we will always be doing something a little different. So maybe we have traditions, maybe we have our favorite kitchen witchery tactics, but they're going to evolve and grow. So enjoy the ride.
And don't be frustrated if you go in with a plan and that plan completely changes in the middle of your spell, your ritual, your recipe, whatever it might be.
Yes.
That's my continual experience. I'll go into a class with an incantation or a plan and I get in there and all of a sudden it changes and it needs to go a different direction. Just go with it. Don't try to force things. I think that's one of the biggest things that I find my students struggle with is they're trying to force it. They're trying to do it right. They're trying to do it perfect. They're trying to check all the boxes and make the timing perfect. And there is no perfection in the craft. There's the perfect timing. There's a perfect circumstance, but not in the idea that it is flawless. The idea that it's better to think of it as the alignment is right. The energy aligns right. The words align right. The flavors align in the right way. So it's not this idea of what hustle culture would lead us to believe, that you have to be perfect in checking all the boxes and doing all the things exactly the way someone else dictates the way they should be.
And it's our masculine conditioning to tell us that we have to have a strong, firm plan.
Yeah.
You know, it's our patriarchal overculture that says you have to plan diligently and all of these things in order to have success. But the feminine reminds us that it's about going with the flow. It's about following your intuition. It's about opening up to the feelings that happen and that guide you into a different flow. So there's always that balance. That is what we're always craving in the craft, is how can I provide balance to myself, to the work I do, to my space, to my relationships. That was what got me here. When I was first learning about witchcraft, I knew I was called to something. I knew, you know, we all feel that longing, and we don't always identify what that call is. And we don't always know why that call is so important to us, but we start following it. And when I knew I was on the right path was when I came across this teaching, which is that witchcraft is always about balance. It's never about, you know, we talk about God and goddess energy, or masculine and feminine energy. Think of these as poles. They're at extreme ends. We are never supposed to exist at those extreme ends. At the extreme ends of masculine and feminine is toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, you know, which if you're like, what is that? I think of that as hating all men, you know, having a very like, I won't even, you have a husband, you're not my friend. I'm unfriending you on Facebook and blocking you. You know, it's like a very toxic thing. It's less common. I think we run into it a lot less than toxic masculinity.
Very rigid, yeah.
But toxic masculinity, we all know what that is. And it's more prevalent because we're in a masculine society, so it enables it. So, but in reality, we all have both of these energies within us. We strive for balance. We strive to be in the middle of that spectrum. Never is life supposed to happen at the extreme poles. It's always supposed to happen in the middle. And witchcraft asks us to find that middle path of energy work. And it's different from a Buddhist middle path. Middle path in Buddhism can look a little more like detachment. Witchcraft is the active connection to that harmony that comes in the middle.
Yeah. Not obsession. I don't want that to be confused with like the attachment as far as obsession goes. But
yeah, it's not rumination. That's an extreme pole again. Yep, that's like going to the extreme. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's more about connecting with the energies that are around you and accepting them, letting them flow without this obsessive need for control. And that is what our society teaches us, this obsessive need for control. And it seeps into cooking. When we look at the French style of cooking.
I was just going to say French cooking.
Like it's so rigid. Like you have to do it exactly. Like Julia Child's, some of her recipes were like 8 pages long. Like
you have to count as you beat the eggs. You have,
yeah. Like some of it was just, it is very, very rigid and very,
and it is masculine,
overly structured. Yeah, that's exactly a masculine aspect. Yeah.
In France, you were not allowed to be a chef if you were a woman until recently.
Oh no, absolutely not. But
so it's literally a masculine practice.
It is. And on that note, I mean, so when we're looking at our practice, when we're getting that inspiration, like I want to do this, I want to be a kitchen witch, I want to practice and maybe you don't want to be a kitchen witch, but you want to practice a little bit in your kitchen as you're making dinner. How do you do that? And that's something that I talk a lot about in my book, Magick in the Kitchen. And I talk about it a lot with my students. And what it boils down to is having a space, having the space where you can explore a little, maybe take a recipe and see how you can make that recipe according to the instructions. But then maybe when you do it again, you add something new, or you change an ingredient, or you do something a little bit different to see how it turns out, to see how it tastes, to see how the energy flows. Maybe you practice dancing while you're cooking it and see how that helps. Maybe you sing to your recipe and see how that works. So,
or breath.
There's a lot.
If you're intimidated by singing, you can offer your breath over the food, which is also, people are probably like, COVID, but there's definitely,
you're breathing in my food.
But while that thing is simmering, you can. And I think the hearth, the kitchen is the representative of the hearth. I have to.
It is.
I have to do my Greek thing and bring up the ancient history here. So in Greece, we have the hearth as our center of our home very intentionally. It's the home, the hearth is the domain of Hestia. She's the goddess of the hearth. The Romans called her Vesta. And she was considered to be embodied in the flame of the hearth. So, of course, in ancient times, that flame was a literal flame. Today, if you have a gas stove, you also have a flame in your home. If you have an electric stove, you have a different version of a flame. It's still fire. So we have fire at the center of this hearth. And let's think again about these polarities and the goal of magic being to exist in balance. Our kitchens are that center point of our home. That is what the hearth is. It's another way to think of it almost as the heart space. It's right in the word. So it's where, even if you're not a kitchen person, like maybe you're drawn to this, but you're really not a great cook, you know, but you know your kitchen is where you feel the most magical and empowered, and that's okay. I will say that I'll be the first to say, when I lived in Greece especially, I have never really had access to a reliable kitchen. I was nomadic for a lot of years, and living in Greece, we didn't have a stove or an oven or anything. We just had a hot plate that was an electric plug-in and an Instant Pot. That was it. That was my kitchen. So, and when I'm nomadic, I still do kitchen witchcraft with the food I craft, even that's, you know, a sandwich or a charcuterie plate.
Yeah,
I'm still crafting it. So don't think of this as like, you have to cook it. It has to be a big stew. Like my husband hates soup. I never get the chance to make a stew unless Leandra and I do it together because I can't, you know, what do you do? Or I make it for my coven. I actually was so craving stew the other day. I made a huge pot of it and had like 2 bowls for myself and then froze the rest of it for my coven meeting later this month. Yep. So sometimes, you know, we have the cravings to do certain things, but you know, kitchen witchery, it really comes into everything you do. It can be the coffee cup you pour yourself in the morning. It is part of this work. And think of kitchen witchcraft. In my brain, I always think of it as it's a heart-centered practice because the kitchen is a heart-centered place. It's the heart of your home. If you've been feeling a quiet anger mixed with clarity, a sense that something ancient in you is done waiting, I would like to tell you about the Red Thread. For 9 weeks, we meet in an astral temple to which I safely guide you, and we will walk with goddesses like Inanna, Aphrodite, Persephone, Hecate, and the Morrigan. You will learn how to stop shrinking and start acting instead of reacting. Acting from a place of grounded power in a world that needs you. If you feel the signs, if you're seeing keys, if crows won't leave you alone, if you're dreaming of snakes, caves, fresh waters at springs, this is for you. Learn more at ElyseWells.com/redthread, and interest-free payment plans are available.
It is. And think about when people come over to your house, where do they tend to gravitate? Where do they tend to congregate? In the kitchen. Unless you have a tiny kitchen like mine. My kitchen's awful. But even when I come over to your house, Elyse, where do we gravitate? We go to the kitchen. We sit at the table. You know,
I know.
We're drinking
much to
tea,
the cat's chagrin. They love sitting on the couch. Yeah, they're like, there's a beautiful couch right there. What are you doing?
I know, it's so comfy. Why are you in here? And Willie comes in and goes, what the hell?
He finds a lap in the kitchen anyway.
He does. He always finds my lap usually, but
yeah, he literally loves you.
Yeah, he's so cute. I love him. But kitchen witchery isn't like you were saying. It isn't about necessarily creating that recipe. It's about creating something that you're going to nourish yourself with. So that could be a cup of tea. It could be a spice blend. It could be a seasoning salt. It could be a cup of coffee. It could be soup. It can be a roast.
Sugar blend.
A sugar blend, absolutely. It could be baking
Witchwood Tea House has some excellent sugar blends.
I love them. Yes.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Yeah, I've been drinking the witching hour tea with the star anise sugar. Highly recommend.
The star anise sugar you make is my favorite. And I didn't even know I liked star anise enough to like that sugar.
I never liked licorice growing up. But then I started making this sugar. I'm like, oh my God, this is good.
Yeah, I still don't like black licorice, But that star anise is a different vibe. Like it's a nice, it's very grounding. The taste almost doesn't matter compared to the effects that you get from it.
Right. It has,
which is a
more
cool
depth
thing with
to it.
kitchen witchcraft, actually, now that we're saying that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things you're going to notice is when you start practicing kitchen witchcraft, you're going to start noticing a depth to your ingredients. It's going to go deeper, especially if you're using fresh ingredients or minimally processed ingredients. And that's something I always highly recommend. Now, not absolutely 100% necessary, but the way I view it is and this is coming from the green witchcraft paradigm, is when you are working with an ingredient, you want it as close to its natural sources or help me with the word, to its natural state. That's the word. You want it as close to the natural state as possible. So whether that be fresh dried, fresh from the farm, fresh from the garden, even fresh from the grocery store is fine. And that way you're getting the best possible energetic marker of that ingredient. If we're cooking with, Kraft mac and cheese or boxed, processed things, we're going to start depleting our ingredients in that aspect because they're so highly processed. They've got so many preservatives in it. They've got so many hours and methods of processing, and then the preservatives and the flavor enhancers. Like, really read the ingredients on your box. If you can't pronounce the ingredient, chances are you shouldn't be eating it. That's
some
kind
of
my
these
rule.
things. I've been back in the US a few months now, and some of these things that are allowed to be eaten, like polysorbate 80 is engine degreaser. And it is in every soft cookie on the market that's like it keeps things fluffy for months, like years.
Yuck.
Yeah, so I think of that food as dead food.
It is.
There's live food and there's dead food. And obviously all of our food is ideally dead. I would not eat a living creature. But when we say that, it's that cucumber that was plucked from the farmer's field maybe even 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's dead. But it's an alive cucumber because it is still connected to the earth. It still holds the water. So I think that's a big thing, is if there's no water in a vegetable or a fruit or a spice, it's losing its essence. However, I will say drying your own spices is a deeply, deeply spiritual practice as a kitchen witch. And I'm noticing too, I want to point this out to listeners, notice that kitchen witchery is a part of green magic. You really can't disseminate the two, because anytime you're working in the kitchen, unless you literally focus on only eating processed foods, you're going to be working with natural ingredients, even if it's just a spice rack. So recognizing that. Also, pro tip, if you're ever like, I don't have any herbs, I need to build an herb collection. Well, do you have any spices in your kitchen? You do have an herb collection.
You do?
We got into this conversation in my coven recently because somebody asked, they were like, oh, do I need to go buy a special herb or can I use this in my kitchen? Oh, of course you can use this in your kitchen. It's food grade. So if you're dressing a candle, if you're, any herbs in your kitchen are perfectly useful. My kitchen herbs are my witchy herbs. I have a few that are unedible, of course, that are not in the kitchen. But, anything that's also edible, I just keep it in my kitchen. I'm a Taurus. I'm going to eat that stuff too. And then I'm going to use it in magic too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'd be surprised how much life is in your dried herbs and spices. Just because they're dry doesn't mean they're lifeless. That's what I mean by minimally processed. They're processed in the ways that our ancestors would have processed them. They're dried. So it's
like sun-dried tomatoes.
Right. Yeah, or, air-dried herbs, or the spices in your cabinet, they have life. They hold their energetic essence because they've been dried and they're not rotting. They're not decaying. And that's where the highly processing, and then decay is where you want to stay away from. Now, that doesn't mean fermenting is not part of this. Fermenting is another great way to add life to your food and to help them absorb into your system a little more readily. So there's so many ways you can practice your craft. So maybe you don't have a big kitchen, and you'll have to tell us about your kitchen in Greece and how
it's so
how
tiny.
fun that
People
was.
have no idea. Yeah.
But even if you don't have like the full stove, the full range oven, the big countertops, the aesthetically proper, quote, I'm putting air quotes up, aesthetically proper kitchen, Like my kitchen, not aesthetically proper. Like literally I can stretch my arms out and I can touch both sides of the kitchen because it is so small. It's more about the attitude you bring in there and the projects that you're going to bring in. So maybe you're going to make a cup of hot cocoa. Maybe you're going to make a cup of tea. Maybe you're going to try your hand at making your own ice cream, whatever it might be. It's more about the attitude and the intention you bring into the kitchen.
So kitchen witchery is something that really gives us an opportunity to move with the cycles of time. And there's multiple ways that we cycle. It's not just the wheel of the year. That's the big overarching one. Astrologers will tell you there's even bigger cycles. There's transits of planets that last 9 years, so there's cycles that happen all around us. I tend to focus on the cycle of the wheel of the year. Then I break that down, focus on the cycle of the moon phase. Then I focus on the cycle of myself, so my own menstrual cycle. So if you menstruate, this is also something you can take notice of. I actually have an article coming out in 2027's Llewellyn Moon book. I think this is in that. I'm going to be in Llewellyn's 2027 Almanac, Sabbath's book, and Moon Signs date book, and spell book. I'm in like so many of their 2027 books, and I loved writing for them. So I might be in all of them forever because it was a lot of fun. But one of the things I got to write for yes, definitely the moon book, was intuitive eating by the moon. Because I've noticed that the moon really affects us more than, especially as I've been on an embodiment journey the past few years, the moon really starts to affect the way we do or don't want to eat. Like right now, we are heading pretty close to the new moon. I'm actually going to check my calendar because it might be tonight as of recording. Oh, no, it's Friday, 2 days from now. And I've noticed that in this moment, as the moon really wanes, I just don't like to eat. I don't feel that driven for food the same way that I do as the full moon approaches. As the full moon approaches, I also dream more. So I don't know if that's part of it. But eating with intention along the moon cycles, it can look very simple. It can be maybe in your journal, or if you have a diary. I keep wanting to hold it up to a camera, but this is a podcast. But I have a date book that it's just like a little section for each day. So this isn't something overwhelming to do. But I just note, my date book already says the moon sign, so I don't have to write anything about that. But under the moon picture, I just write how my appetite was that day, what I was craving. So, and then I can sometimes notice too, I track my cycle on an app, my menstrual cycle. So with that, I'm able to compare as well. Oh, well, I was also, in my follicular phase, and they say that that's a time where you don't, you're not as hungry. And so it's interesting to map that onto the moon, and it helps you understand more about yourself. And our food is really such an indication. Like what our bodies crave is such an indication of what we need in our lives.
Oh, yeah. For sure. And I think for those who don't menstruate anymore, or you never have, following the moon is a great way just to tap into your own cycle. Because even if you don't menstruate, for whatever reason, maybe menopause, or you're not in a female body, whatever it might be. And,
our male listeners are like, it's never coming, Leandra.
I know, like, what are you doing? But following the moon, we all have some sort of cycle, emotional, hormonal, whether it be testosterone or estrogen. We all have these cycles, and some of us are slower, some of us are faster, some of us are regular, some of us are not regular. So when we start tracking our moods and our experiences, especially like you said, you dream more around the full moon. Same here. Maybe that's something you never thought about. Oh, maybe I do. So how does that tie into my practice? Not just food, but your practice in general. Okay, so I know I'm going to dream more around the full moon, so maybe I should keep my dream journal around. And that's an example of how we create these practical, sustainable practices in our journey. Yeah.
It makes me think of Atomic Habits, which is not a witchy book, but it's a great book for witches to read. Yep. But he talks about habit stacking in that book. I can't remember the author's name, but it's called Atomic Habits. It's a bestseller.
I have it behind me, but I can't see it from here.
Yeah, I reread it probably every 2 years, just because it's a short read and it's very useful for productivity, especially as a writer. And I'm always trying to self-motivate there. So it's a very helpful book to understand how to get rid of bad habits as well as how to embody good habits. And so all the things about embodying good habits, those are things I've applied to my witchcraft practice. So habit stacking is the idea that I wake up in the morning, I go and do my morning ritual. I light a candle, and then while I light my candle, I also say some incantations for protection. I sometimes braid my hair at my altar if I remember to bring up my hair tie or my brush. And then I do some stretching. So I've been struggling for years on wanting to move my body. I am a Taurus. I am a Kapha, if anyone follows Ayurveda. So I really struggle to just want to move this body. But it feels better when I do. Crazy.
Yes.
So I stacked that habit of stretching with my morning ritual. And it's better to do all that in the morning anyway. So it helps me do both things. So you can find ways to do that. So when you know, maybe in the morning you have some mundane world tasks, like you have to do the dishes from last night's dinner, you have to feed the cats. When you do that, make your coffee. And while you make your coffee, do your morning ritual. Do it right there in the kitchen.
Yeah. And if that's not an option for you, so talking about the atomic habits and creating a practice, what I tend to do, and this is how I beat my procrastination, this is how I stop myself from talking myself out of things. I look at my day planner, I look at my list of tasks that I need to do for the day. And either I'm running through it mentally in my head or I'm literally looking at it in my book. And I look at the things that I want to do the least. The things that I know I'm going to have the most internal resistance towards in my head, in my body. And I do those things first. So exercise is one of those because I know I'm going to feel better if I exercise. I know I feel better when I pick up my weights or I go to the gym or I go for my walk or do my mobility exercise, or the new thing that I started is sword yoga, which has been fun and I love it. But I don't exercise. I'm so resistant to it. So I have to make sure that that's the first thing I do every single day. So that's one way to look at your list of things in your life that you need to make a habit or you need to make a routine. What is the thing you're most resistant to? Do that first. That way everything else is easy and your whole day will flow better. Yeah.
Have you ever felt a sacred place calling you? Join me at the Oracle of Delphi, where the sacred spring is flowing again. Be anointed in her waters and visit the temple of the Pythia, as well as other oracle sites in Greece, and experience for yourself the prophecy still stirring beneath the stones. This coming May, I'm guiding immersive pilgrimages to Aphrodite Springs, Elyse, the Temple of Artemis, and so many more sacred places I can't wait to show you. Learn more at ElyseWells.com/2026immersives or follow the link in the show notes. The land of Greece is waiting to remember you.
And you can even extend that to your week. Like I try to stack my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday so that my Thursday, Friday can be more in my pleasure and I can just do the fun things.
Yeah.
Still the hard things. I think that's the other thing about maybe a better way to say it is an active practice or an aware practice is we become more aware of how hard it is to do things and how joyous it is when we do them. So bringing it back to food, I used to really struggle with not craving the bad for you stuff, you know, the processed food, the sugary stuff. But when I started focusing on how my body felt, you know, and it's not even intuitive as much as it's literally listening to my body after I eat something, while I'm eating something, I would feel the effects more strongly of that processed food. So I still, every time my husband is like, hey, do you want to go in and get a snack? And we get gas or whatever, we go into the gas station. I look at these things and I sometimes will have the craving, like especially Oreos. I can't eat dairy and they are dairy free. So they always, like when I'm craving chocolate, I'm like, oh, I could just go get Oreos. But what I'll do is I'll hold the packet and close my eyes and feel what it feels like to eat that and digest it. Yeah. And then I'll be like, no, my body is actually begging me not to eat that. So my brain, the little ego part that's like, oh, that's going to be tasty. We could eat it right now. It's actually, you can bypass that when you just kind of drop in and listen to your body.
Oh, I so relate to that because I do a lot of traveling. And the inner child in me is like, ooh, road snacks. Yes. Like that was always the best part of traveling. But I'm finding now the more aware I have become over the past several years of processed foods, how I feel when I eat them. And in my head, it sounds like a good idea. But like you, when I go in there and I actually pick up the package or I'm looking around for something, I don't want any of it. I'll end up getting a drink or something instead of a sugary snack or a salty snack. Occasionally I'll go for like potato chips or something because those seem like the least of, the lesser of all the evils. But I get more upset when they don't have like the fresh eggs or the fresh vegetables, that little center refrigerator section. If they don't have something fresh in there, I get more upset because I don't want to travel. First of all, you're sitting in a car for a long time. So your circulation's not great. You're not able to like do jumping jacks every hour or whatever. And
so a high sodium processed
it's not
crap
good for
fest isn't good for you? That's crazy.
No,
while you're driving?
No. Imagine that. But that's the problem with it. So when I take road trips, I have a big cooler. It's like a backpack cooler. I throw apples in there. And we traveled together.
I was going to say, I know this first. It's magnificent. Leandra packed us the most beautiful Hobbit picnic for our drive up to Temple Fest this year. And I'm already looking forward to next year's.
Yes.
It was
and
so
it's so
good.
simple. I mean, I just threw some shrimp in a thing and some
cherry
vegetables.
Tomatoes and carrot sticks and hummus and pretzels.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And we just sat we pulled over on, I do love this about the United States. Driving here, there's always a nice little park you can pull over right off the highway, and you'll still hear the cars, but you'll be in some nature and maybe see some squirrels. So we were sitting as our little Hobbit selves, just enjoying our little snack. And I felt people around us look at us and be like, dang, that was a good idea.
I wish I had that. But that's an example of how kitchen witchery goes with you everywhere. It's not something that just stays in the kitchen. Like you can prepare a magical meal, stick it in a cooler, and take it with you on your next road trip or with you to your for lunch at work. And you can make it intentional. And that was my intention. It was for us to have a nice lunch because I knew we'd be driving for like 7 hours. And that's brutal. You think, why is driving so brutal? We're just sitting and driving. But it can be. Like, it can be incredibly brutal. You're tired when you get done. And if you're not nourishing yourself right, you're going to be depleting more than just your energy. You're depleting your magic. You're depleting your energy reserves. And the intention with that lunch, specifically as a kitchen witch, was to nourish us so that when we arrived, we weren't beat. We weren't exhausted and just wanted to go to our room and lay down. And we didn't. I think we partied until like midnight. I don't remember when we went to bed.
I know. And I literally thought of that while we were like up and at 'em all day, like looking around. So many people were tired. And I was like, man, I'm glad we had our nourishing little lunch instead.
Really good. Really good.
When I was in Switzerland, we did a train trip. And so we went to like 9 or 10 different little towns and cities along the train. And in Switzerland, they are very famous for their cheese. And every town would have their own special cheese named after their town, only made there. We're talking like an 8-mile radius, and that's the only place in the world you can get this cheese. So, and this was before I knew I had a dairy allergy, fortunately. So that was, No, it was good because I didn't know I had the allergy, but I also shouldn't have eaten so much cheese. Yeah. But so what my husband and I were doing is we would get this cheese. We would get the local bread. We'd go to the bakery of whatever the local guy was making. And then because I'm obsessed with cucumbers, Switzerland has snacking cukes. They're like these tiny little baby cucumbers.
Tiny ones. I love those.
And they're everywhere. So I would get those. We would get some cheese and we'd get some bread. And we would go to we would get it and then go to a place that would have, because Switzerland, this is where most of our bottled water comes from in the world. It is the best water in the world. So we would go to a park that would have a free fountain. All across Switzerland are free fountains. And we would drink the water from the spirit of place, eat the food made by people who live there, and just commune and get to know the place. So we would arrive in the morning. check into our place or, drop our bags off where we're going to store them, begin exploring, get our food, and ground and connect to that place through the meal. So it was a really special trip, and I think it was deeply enhanced by eating the food of the land. So think about that when you're traveling too, like not just eating, what the people eat, but really trying to go to where the locals get their food, really trying to eat what the locals actually eat. And, maybe that means not going to the fancy restaurant that's designed for the tourists. Like we didn't really, Switzerland is very expensive. And we did this trip when we first moved to Greece and we were still figuring life out. And so we did picnics out of necessity. Like it's easily over $40 a person to get even a burger at a random joint. It's very expensive to eat out in Switzerland. So it was a necessity, but it became a deep practice that even though we had saved up money for a few different restaurants, we actually only ate at one the whole 3 weeks we were there because we just loved this practice. So you'll find ways that Kitchen Witchery brings you gratitude for, the small things become the big things. And this practice just unfolds before you. And you learn so many more ways you can connect and deepen what you're doing. And it just tacks on, it's something you open yourself up to, and it just takes you along the journey.
Well, and think about the importance of food in our human lineage. People come together over food, over drinks. Families cook together. History is made through food. The relationships are reinforced through food. So food is one of those, it's so important to our existence as humans. It helps us connect to each other. It helps us relax with each other. It helps us connect with spirit of a place. Because especially if you're cooking seasonally, and I think this is something that is important as a kitchen witch, is to try to cook as seasonally as possible. In the fall, find your local vegetables like squash and I'm blanking out. I don't know why I'm blanking out.
Apples.
What else is it? Apples. Apples and oranges, citrus, whatever it is that you can find. Like go to those local festivals at farms put on in your local area and see what they're offering. See what they've grown on the land there and what they're selling. Like here in Pennsylvania, we are like, you can't spit and not hit like a local produce stand of some sort, whether it be downtown or somebody's front yard that they just decided to grow too many tomatoes. So they have one of those little boxes out in front.
The honor system in PA is so wholesome. In Maryland, I've learned in these months here that you have to call a number and they have to meet you there and you have to give them money. They don't trust like in PA.
Yeah.
So that's been sad. But there is a farmer's market. And anybody who has the preconceived notion that farmer's markets are more expensive than grocery stores, I think that used to be true, but not anymore. Not anymore. The grocery store is astronomical. I actually save money at my farmer's market now.
Yeah.
So I would try that again. If you haven't gone for a few years, definitely try again.
Yeah. And there's definitely something to be said. It's not as convenient, of course, because there's a grocery store on almost every corner or just down the street. And so it makes it easy. But if you have a good grocery store, they're going to have like a local organic section. If it's not both, it'll be one or the other. And they will have these options for you where you can partake in local foods. So it's not something that's trucked thousands of miles and was picked green and sat in a storage container for weeks until it arrived. But sometimes if they're a good grocery store, they will tell you what farm it comes from. And then you can look up that farm and maybe go visit that farm. So where we live in Pennsylvania, we are considered the tail end of the fruit belt, which I didn't realize that was a thing until recently. And so the fruit belt, I guess, I don't know if it goes all the way down through, it comes through Florida all the way up, but it is this where we grow most of our fruits and some vegetables in America. And here we have so many local farms that grow apples, grow peaches, grow apricots, you name it. So when the season is right, you can get some really, really good produce that is probably going to be a lot cheaper than the grocery store, especially if you're going direct to the farm. I got almost 40 pounds of peaches for like $20
Wow.
this year. So I made jams and I made preserves and cocktails and, anything I can make with the peaches I did. And if you get my book, if you get my book, Magick in the Kitchen, I have a recipe in there for a peach rosemary jam that is my absolute favorite jam. And that's what I made this year. I made that one, and it'll be Christmas gifts,
That's awesome.
for those who like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's the other part of the intentionality that Kitchen Witchcraft invites us towards is, where does my food come from? So I actually want to give some advice on this. So there's a few online delivery services available in the United States. I can't speak. In Greece, we don't have anything like this, but we also have farm stands literally everywhere. So we don't need it like we do in the US. So if you're like, oh yeah, that all sounds great, but I have no time. Well, these deliver right to your house. So the one I use is called Hungry Harvest, and it's kind of local. They don't have national, like all across the states, all 48 continental states, but check if they're there, hungryharvest.net. They are really great. And actually, I'll put my link in the bio for $10 off. I think you get $10 off if you use my link. But that's what I use. So they go to grocery stores and local farms and they get extra stuff. So sometimes, this is so sad, but grocery stores will throw away food that doesn't fit the model of a small avocado has to be this size, a medium avocado has to be this size, a large one has to be this size. So if an avocado is between medium and large, it gets thrown away. So Hungry Harvest saves those things from our local grocery stores. That same principle is applied to Misfits Market. Yeah. That's not available where I live, but if it is where you live, check them out. There's also another one called Imperfect Foods. All three of these do the same thing, where they work with food that would otherwise go to the trash, and they give it to you at a pretty good discount. So I spend about $30 a week with Hungry Harvest, and I get more than enough vegetables. Like I always have way more than I know what to do with, vegetables and fruit. And you can get some really unique stuff. Like I'll get Romanesco through there, persimmons, pomegranates, stuff that my local grocery store does not have. So it's a benefit. It's not just better for the environment. It is cheaper for your wallet. It is better for your heart and body. And you will feel, the joy I get. And Hungry Harvest, it just keeps getting better. Their boxes are totally biodegradable. So we shred them and put them right in our compost. And their ice packs actually are plant food. They're organic, an organic version of Miracle Grow. So you just snip off the end and pour it in your plants. So we store it during the winter.
At this point.
For real. I know. They're amazing. So look online. You will be shocked what's out there. And then there's another website called Azure, Azure, and they're an organic produce bulks thing. So it's not something you necessarily do every month. Maybe if you have a bunch of kids and a big family, maybe every month is good. But for myself, I do it every quarter. And they work with local farmers near you to create bundles and offers for you. So it's fantastic. Like you can even get stuff like einkorn flour, einkorn bread. So it's, anyway, these things exist. They exist online. They can come right to your door. I promise it's worth the little bit of shaking up your routine to figure out how to get more living ingredients in your environment at home. And the way it will ignite your practice is incredible.
Yeah. And on that lines, another one is joining a CSA, a community supported agricultural farm. And a lot of these are nonprofit.
Yeah. The good old fashioned way.
Good old fashioned. And typically they have different options. You can either go and help maintain the farm, like pulling weeds, planting seedlings, that sort of thing. And then you get your box, your weekly box at a discount, or you can just pay a monthly or pay per box, however your local CSA does it. The one I go to, they allow you can pay an annual fee and you get a weekly box, or you can buy per box. And they'll have things in there like fresh whole chicken pieces. They'll have milk, they'll have cheese, and it's all local. They will even partner with other local makers. Like I featured my tea in one of their boxes one time, because it was part of just the perk of having that membership. So they support the local environment. And then you get to see the farm. You can go to the farm and actually see the farm. How do they practice? How do they fertilize? How do they treat pests? How do they treat their workers? And, you really get that insight to it. And it may cost you a little bit of labor, but how many of us could benefit being outside more,
Yeah.
and pulling a couple weeds. But, if you're not growing it yourself, it does. It really does. And it's so beneficial to connect with your community through food and connect with your ingredients on a very intimate level instead of just going to the grocery store mindlessly. And not that that's a problem, because 9 times out of 10 we're working, we're trying to manage kids, we're trying to manage appointments, we're trying to manage life. So the only option we have left is to go to the grocery store. But maybe once in a while, you mix it up a little bit and try something different.
Even if it's once a season, 4 times a year, try and get something in season to have in your home. Go apple picking in the fall, blueberry picking in the summer.
Yeah.
See what you can do. Yeah, make it an activity. Make it an artist date. I love that expression from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. She says you should go out on your own once a week if you can, and just take your artist on a date. Take your inner creative out on a date to just exist in places that nourish your soul. And doing something like that. I love going on an artist date to an orchard or I don't know what they're called. Berry patch? I guess that's what they're called.
Yeah, berry patch.
I was going to say grove of berries. That's not right.
Grove of berries. No. But yeah, my son loves going blueberry picking, although he does eat more than he picks.
I was going to ask, because that's how I pick blueberries. Not much comes home.
I always joke with him, like, you might want to weigh him before and after, because they're going to get more of an accurate. And they're like, whatever, it's fine. Just.
So before we wrap this up, I want to give everybody a reminder that we do a Kitchen Witch's Hearth episode every quarter with a recipe. And lately we've been actually cooking this recipe together. So you get the recipe through the episode and you get to see us actually create this magic. So you can go back and check those out. We have another one that'll come out for in bulk in about a month. But today we want to leave you with a practice you can go and do right now with ingredients probably that you already have on your spice rack.
Yeah. And so I created this recipe, and it's functional, but it's also, you can change things out. So if you don't like an ingredient or you want to add something extra in it, feel free. So, and I'll have a link to the PDF download in the show notes, and probably I'll also put it in my resources section of my website. So if you ever go to leandrawitchwood.com, I have a free resources section where I have tons of downloads that you can grab from there. So this recipe is super simple, and it can be drank as a tea, or you can do it as a simmer pot to infuse your home with scent magic in the kitchen. So here's the ingredients. So grab your pen and paper. Here's the ingredients if you don't want to go to get the download. It is 4 cups of water and black tea. So I use about 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of loose black tea. So Assam Banaspati is great, or Ceylon Orange Pekoe is great, because they're both pretty mild. Assam is a little more robust in flavor. But Ceylon, think of like Lipton iced tea that you get at the store. That's what Ceylon is. It's that crisp, kind of a slightly astringent tea. And then you probably want, I go with about a half an apple. You can use more if you like, if you want it a little more sweet. So I like to use Gala apples, but you can use Pink Lady, Fuji, any sweet apple. That's the only stipulation there. You want it to be a sweet apple. Then 1 stick of cinnamon, a teaspoon-ish of rose hips. Now you want the cut and sifted kind. So that means no seeds, because seeds in rose hips are poisonous. So if you didn't know that, now you know. You want 3 to 5 whole cloves, about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch fresh ginger, 1/2 to 1.5 teaspoons of lemon zest. This can be fresh or dried, whatever you like. And then honey, brown sugar as desired to your taste, whatever you like. And really super simple. Throw this all in the water, throw it on the stove in a pot. Or if you want to do a simmer pot, then in your simmer pot vessel, I have a crazy one. It looks like a teapot that's heated by a candle. But if you use like a little cast iron one or just any old pot on the stove is fine. Throw everything in, warm it up. If you're going to drink this as a tea, I would simmer it for about 5 to 10 minutes and then let it cool. Here's the cool thing that happens when you warm up cinnamon, when you boil cinnamon and then let it cool, that's when it extracts. It's not extracting while you're boiling it. It extracts as it cools. So that's when you get the flavor of the cinnamon. That's when you get the properties of the cinnamon. They come after the fact. So keep that in mind. Whenever you're working with cinnamon, whole cinnamon especially, you're not going to get the full flavor or the full benefits of cinnamon until the liquid begins to cool, because that's when it extracts. And you can strain it and enjoy it as a tea. Or like I said, you can keep it on your stove, put it on low heat, let it simmer, let it just infuse your house with this great cinnamon, apple, clove fragrance. And you can, if you're going to serve this, I would garnish it with an apple or maybe a cinnamon stick, however you like.
That's beautiful. And I love a simmer pot that you can do something with after, which as a Taurus, I just want to drink it. I just want to eat it up. But it's also nice because once those ingredients all dry out, you could turn that cinnamon. First of all, you could use it again in another simmer pot. Mm-hmm. You could turn it into a decoration for your tree. You could take those offerings out to your land, especially those apple slices. They're going to be a great treat for the winter critters outside. So it becomes a working that keeps giving. And that is what I hope everybody takes away from this episode is kitchen witchcraft is a creative path. It's an experience of green magic that invites your participation with your ingredients, and it just keeps rewarding you with more opportunities.
Yeah. And those opportunities, like you said, go beyond the initial working. So with this working, you might want to infuse prosperity because there's a lot of prosperity or herbs in here. So as you're boiling your ingredients, the apple for prosperity, longevity, health, cinnamon for action, the fire energy, success. Same with clove, rose hips for not only health benefits, but also for love and protection, that sort of
heart
thing.
Opening.
Yeah, opening that heart chakra. So while you're boiling this mixture and allowing it to infuse your house with this presence. And so if you've been listening for a while, you know I hate that cinnamon out the door thing every month. I hate that. First of all, here's why. Okay, let me go deeper into it because I know I've just keep saying that I hate it, but I don't really give it a context of why. In magic, everything we do is symbolic. Our actions are symbolic. The herbs and spices we're using, the plants we're using, they are our allies. So if we are not connecting with them on a deeper level, then we're not really doing our magic. We're just using them as a commodity. And that's one thing I don't like. But think about it. If you're blowing cinnamon out your door, what are you doing? You're blowing that prosperity away from you, out your door, not holding it in your home. You're not bringing it to your home. And that's one of the other reasons why I have such an issue with this practice because, and it drives me nuts because I just recently heard that now it's a tradition. It has no history in witchcraft. It has no merit to be a tradition yet. I mean, it could become a tradition, but there needs to be a lineage there. There needs to be a why. Why are we doing this? What does this mean to us? And if it's just something that you started doing because an influencer told you to do it, that's not enough. That's just copycatting. So, on my soapbox, bear with me. If we're blowing our prosperity away from us, it's never going to come back to us. If we're treating our ingredients like commodities, they're not going to work with us anymore. So creating simmer pots, making tea, making food, things that we nourish ourselves with through practice and through the actual ingredient, the process, the alchemical process that happens in our body, that is bringing prosperity to us. That is calling forth what we want to embody instead of just blowing at our door and saying bye. That's how I view it because everything we do is symbolic. Everything we do has a purpose. And if you're blowing it away from you, if you're blowing it out your door, you're sending it away.
And
So
I
hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And I know I've shared this on the show before too, but it's also so wasteful. Like it is such an incredibly modern privilege to have access to these spices the way we do.
Yeah.
And that gratitude I think it's important to have in our kitchen witch practice as well, is the gratitude that we have clove, cinnamon, allspice regularly available. These things were fought over for centuries in the East Road. You know, wars were fought for access to these spices. The British did their whole empire about it. Yeah. So we are so blessed to have these tools at our disposal. And if our ancestors had cinnamon at their disposal, I promise you, they never took an entire handful and
blew it out the door.
Yeah.
They would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So there's also that. It's like, I don't know that it honors our ancestors to be too wasteful with things.
And additionally, as a kitchen witch, I'm always looking at how I can use and reuse my ingredients so that I'm giving them the most respect. So when you're creating something like this simmer pot or a cup of tea, you're left with what's been extracted. You're left with the spent materials, but they're not useless. So you mentioned when they're dried out, you can use them. Yes, you can create sacred ashes. And then from that, you can make ink. From that, you can make salts. You can make protection recipes with eggshells and that sort of thing. So there's so many more ways to use your ingredients rather than just one and done. And I think that really shows the respect of that ingredient, shows respect to that ingredient when you find other ways to incorporate it into your practice well after the initial spell.
Yeah. And even if it just looks like drying it all out and figuring that out later, like those cloves, those cinnamon sticks, just dry them out. Just put them on a paper towel or a regular towel and let them dry. And they will be useful
even if it means just burying them. Yeah, even if you use them again, even if it means just burying them in the yard. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't make an ink, you don't make a ash or a salt or whatever out of it. But because if you are busy, you're not going to have necessarily the time or attention that you can pay to burning down your ingredients to make that ash and then mixing it in with the salt and then, you know, whatever the process might be for you. That's my process. Is I make tea, I save my leaves, I make a simmer pot, I save the ingredients, dry them out, burn them, then I grind them up, put them in salt. There I have a black salt. But if you can't do that, just dry them out and bury them. Put them in the pot that you've been trying to grow a ficus out of, or your pythos, whatever it is, and give back to the energy instead of just discarding it. Merry meet,
merry part, and merry meet again.
Thank you for joining us on the Magick Kitchen Podcast. Please visit my website, leandrawitchwood.com, for news, information, and more episodes.
I'm Elyse Wells. You can learn more about my current offerings and my upcoming retreats to Greece at ElyseWells.com. That's ELYSEWELLES.com.
Hey there, witches. Did you know there's an entire community out there waiting for you? The Rebel Mystic Coven is a space I've built to help you live your witchcraft journey. So join me today in the Rebel Mystic Coven for twice monthly live lessons, resources, classes, and deep discussions. Check the link in the show notes to learn more, or visit my website, leandrawitchwood.com, for more information. Blessed be, and I look forward to seeing you in the coven.